Hello, this is Annette with Project Refine Life. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm here to share the Tantric Dakini Oracle. This deck was originally published in 1977. It is a tarot-based oracle deck that is focused on the teachings of the Tantric tradition. I first saw this deck on Meg's channel over at Rose Honey Ritual. And every time she shared this deck, and she shares it a lot because it is one of her favorites, I got a little bit more intrigued each and every time. I have been working very heavily with, oh my goodness, I just dumped it out, but I've been working very heavily with one of my absolutely new favorite tarot decks of all time, which is the Ritual Tarot. Now, the Ritual Tarot by Tierra May has this 1970s style collage work within the deck, which I have just fallen in love with. So after seeing Meg work with this deck and share the deck, I did think, wow, you know what? The energy from what she's saying feels right to work with the Ritual Tarot, and the art styles match. And then Natalie over at Sanskrit Blue shared this deck just recently, and that was it. I really was interested in what she had to say about this deck because I know that she has practiced and has studied the Buddhist tradition in depth. So with that in mind, I went ahead and ordered the deck. This is a mass market deck, so you can easily get this deck on Amazon. So I went ahead and ordered the deck, and I haven't worked with it so far, but I just shuffled it a few minutes ago because I recorded this video twice at this point. I just couldn't find a way to end the video, and then I got all tongue-tied. So here we are for take number 2 of this deck. So let me just give you a little bit of information about this deck. Now, this deck, like I said, was published in 1977. It comes in this really big box with this pull-out sleeve, which separates the cards. I don't like that. I want my cards together, but it does come with this really chunky book. And in the beginning of the book, it has a lot of descriptions about how he came about this deck, what he was doing, what inspired him. And I'm fascinated by all of that and into the study of all of this. I really didn't understand the depth of it before I ordered it. And then in digging into the guidebook, I was pleasantly surprised. So I'm very excited about this deck. Each card has almost 2 pages worth of between the photo and the description of the cards. There are 3 spreads within the guidebook, and each spread is really detailed. So at the beginning of the guidebook, it tells you about the spreads, about how to do the spreads, and in the back of the guidebook, it really breaks down how to read that particular spread and different ways to work with the spreads, which I think is just wonderful. Like, I've never seen such a breakdown of it. It's really, really good. So the deck itself contains 65 cards, 22 major arcana, 40 minor arcana, representing the 4 elements, not including the suits in your regular tarot deck, plus 3 cards that represent the past, the present, and the future. Now, the art itself is all very 70s full color collage art that has been created by the artist of this deck, Miss Penny Slinger, and then the author, of course, is Nick Douglas. But this deck, the art within it really comes to you for a really deep dive within the deck, and some of the cards, as you can see here, totally bananas. There is not only that real depth within the deck, but also a sense of humor, which I really, really enjoy. This right here is one of the extra 3 cards. This represents the present, and this is the yantra for the 64 yoginis. So now a Dakini is referred to as also a yogini. So the 64 yoginis, this is what's represented within the 64 4 cards plus the full card. That's how the deck is pretty much broken down. And I'll just continue to go through here. Here's the Joker. And I'm sorry that these are out of order at this point, so you can't see them in the order in which they came. Look at, there's Arnold. Hello. This is, I like this, Dangerous Pussy, the past. Yeah, that could be the case. The Wave of Bliss, the Last Laugh, that represents the future. The Hot Seat, this one represents the Emperor. And if you think about it, like, yeah, that's a real hot seat to be in that position, right? But I don't even know what I was talking about anymore. But the art is that really heavy collage style, so it really does go with decks for me, like the Ritual Tarot and the Lioness Oracle Tarot. I'm very excited to get to work with both of these decks. There we have Kali. The author got his inspiration from his work in India, and specifically working or being at one of the temples in India, which is known to be one of the oldest temples and where the initiations for the Dakinis took place. It is an open air temple and it is just beautiful. I will share a video down below, but I do have a picture of that particular temple, which is included in my guidebook of the Yoginis Oracle. I've talked about this deck before on my channel. So that's the temple itself right there. And inside that circle, they have all of the Yoginis on the inside. So like I said, I will include a video below so you can see a tour of this temple. Now, I haven't found any videos that are mellow and quiet. So if you click on the link for the video, you're going to find that they usually have like a lot of music or it's pretty loud. So just be prepared for that. Slay the Ego. Look at that. I love it. Taking up arms, self-preservation. It is really, really a deep deck. And I'm going to try not to get too deep into this deck because I haven't worked with the deck yet, but just reviewing the cards and looking at the guidebook, I'm really excited to get to work with it. Look at that. The Heart Drop, the Fire of Sacrifice, the Chameleon. These are all really good. Even just the keyword in the image, I am always looking for decks like that. Like, give me an option to just work with what's available on the card if you want a quick read, or if you want to dig into it a little bit deeper. But I'm going to say right now that the introspection that you can get from working with this deck is well worth the investment of really digging in to this guidebook. Even though each meaning is a little bit lengthy, this deck, I can see that this deck would really work well for myself. Not to share with other people, really, just to work on myself, because it's really good. I really, really like this deck. I think I just bumped the camera. So let me go ahead and just explain the Dakinis within the Tantric Dakini Oracle. The archetypal forms of the Dakinis have been interpreted in a contemporary context by making use of collage techniques. They blended together the symbols and archetypes into new presentations of the Kali Chakra, or Wheel of Time wisdom cycle, which works on both the conscious and unconscious. The cards are a mirroring device, effectively evoking subtle memories, sentiments, desires, or fears. For a description of a Dakini or a Yogini, I'm going to read to you just a section from a book from Lama Tilstrim in the book Wisdom Rising. She states, "The Dakini is a messenger of spaciousness and a force of truth, presiding over the funeral of self-deception. Whenever we cling, she cuts. Whatever we think we can hide, even from ourselves, she reveals. The Dakini traditionally appears during transitions, moments between worlds, between life and death, in visions between sleep and waking, in cemeteries and charnel grounds." Now, if you are not familiar with what a charnel ground is, there is a card right here, which I will show you what a charnel ground is. So the charnel ground is when the bodies, the remains, the skeletori remains, are all gathered in within a sacred ground, within a temple. That is the way that they were stored. So as an example of that, you can hear about the Mayan temples that had tons and tons of skeletori remains, and they were all from the sacrifices. But the truth is that they kept they kept the bones that way. So you might have seen this one right here, cremation ground meditation, where the remains are kept together in a sacred space. That's what the charnel grounds are. Here's the Joker. Look at all the faces on the Joker. Isn't that great? I don't know. I just think this is a very clever deck. And being that it is an older deck, I'm quite happy with this deck and the ability to go ahead and work with this deck. Now, I didn't bring down my regular Rider-Waite-Smith deck. It is just a little bit larger than your ordinary RWS. As far as shuffling, even a bad shuffler like me can shuffle this deck very easily. So that has to say something. See that, guys? Even I'm able to do that. I'm an overhand shuffler. I only do that a couple of times, and then after that, it's pretty much all about overhand shuffling. So the context of a Dakini, they appear in very different ways, and they can be fierce and intense, or playful and nurturing. And I heard somebody state in some video, and I don't even remember where, that a lot of people say, my mom is a Dakini, my wife is a Dakini, and she stated that being a Dakini may not be all that it is cracked up to be. Like sometimes you really don't want to be related to a Dakini. A Dakini is representative of all the different facets of ourselves. And I have read, and if it is not right, please somebody let me know, but that the 8 main Dakinis or goddesses are represented. The reason that there's 64 is because the 8 of the Dakinis or the goddesses and their attendants or servants are all of the different aspects that come together to form a total of 64 Dakinis. So that's how that comes to be. And I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but this is the yantra for the 64 Dakinis. So now this could be a whole other video, and I'm not really going to get into that, but the way to access the Dakinis is by yantras, mantras, yoga, meditation, focusing on stuff like that particular mantra. It's all ways to access the wisdom, the guidance, the fierceness that comes along with the Dakinis. So I mean, yes, I saw the name of the deck, but I had seen some pretty bad reviews about the deck. Now, I'm not expecting this deck or any other deck to completely give me wisdom about any particular subject. But once I looked into it a little bit more and I heard Natalie speak on this deck, I thought, okay, I can work with this deck the way that it is written, and understanding that, you know, nobody has full knowledge, right? We're all just kind of second-handing all of this information, really, if you think about it. Unless you were there and learning the original wisdom of this particular practice, it's all just, you know, second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever, you know, hundreds of years later, thousands of years later for this information. So none of us has it exactly right. If you think about it, you know, none of us has this information firsthand. So as far as getting into the idea or the thought process of the concept of this deck, I think this deck is wonderful for that use. Just getting to know yourself a little bit better, working with that archetypal energy, and really digging in. You can work with just the keywords, or you can dig in deeper with the guidebook. I always love when there's that option. The art is enough so that you can kind of dig in along with the keywords and really take it further. In this deck also, he states that he uses the numbers and uses numerology to really work within the depths of this deck. So that is another way that you can utilize this deck. Now, within the guidebook, let me just share a little bit about the guidebook. The guidebook has even the location and astrological houses mentioned here, and then goes a little bit further. There's the spreads that I spoke on earlier that really goes into some detail. Here they mention the way that the deck is comprised. There's the Joker, and then he breaks down the 1 through 21 are the majors, 22 through 31 are the minors that represent air, 32 through 41 represent fire, 42 through 51 represent water, 52 through 61 represent earth, and then 62, 63, and 64 represent the past, the present, and the future, making up the total of 65 cards. Also included in the guidebook is a quick reference sheet. So if you don't want to dig into the full meaning of the card, but you want a little bit more than just the keyword, here he has the number, the title, a brief meaning, and the tarot relationship for each and every card. I'm telling you, this is from the 70s, and this is really, really, really good. In the back, like I said, he really breaks those spreads down and gets into a little bit more meaning on each and every one. So that's it, guys. I'm going to stop there. I think I will be, within time, doing a little bit of a better introduction to the Yogini's Oracle, because if you like this deck, you will probably like this deck, which is the Yogini's Oracle that does speak directly to the 64 Yoginis. Thank you so much. I appreciate you joining me. I want you to have a beautiful day filled with love, joy, and happiness. From my heart to yours, I will see you later.